I want to start this one with a little quiz. Well, it's not going to be a really tough quiz because you've probably seen the thumbnail when you click this video, but anyway. Which character is this? He or she taught Miri Mazdur, is connected to Qyburn through what seems to be something like mutual sympathy, is obsessed with Danis the Dreamer, and entertains Rordrik the Reader. Who could that be? Well, it's Marwin, of course. The Mage, or the Mastiff, whichever you prefer. Archmaester of the Citadel. He's one half of my topic for today. We only get one chapter of him. Actually only about half a chapter, and it is not even a long one. Yet Marwin is one of the most interesting and most mysterious characters going into the final 2 books. If George doesn't change his mind and makes it 3, that is. Discussions of Marwin have died down a bit recently in favor of other major players, I feel. At least in some circles. All the more reason to bring him back. I had not really realized this fully myself, but Marwin's actual first appearance has been set up very diligently pretty much from the outset. Marwin is, so to speak, a flower that our gardener George planted very early. The first thing we ever hear about this strange Archmaester is that he taught Miri Mazdur in Ashai. Let that sink in for a moment. We do not exactly know if he taught her whatever she did to Dany's little family, but we must assume that he is capable of much more than Miri was. He was teaching people in Ashai of all places, that seemingly unreachable place of death, corruption and darkness. Probably being capable of beating men to death with his bare fists seems like a rather pleasant fate compared to what we must assume he has in his repertoire. Making sure we don't completely forget about Marwin, Martin brings up his name again. And again, it is in connection to a character we despise, Qyburn. Qyburn mentions to Jaime that he believes in ghosts, spirits, or whatever we want to call it. He believes that something remains after a person dies. He adds, "The Archmaesters did not like my thinking though. Well, Marwin did, but he was the only one." It's interesting how Qyburn says Marwin, and does not use his title. It does not exactly jump off the page, since the word Archmaester appears in the same sentence, but really, it does sound like Qyburn indeed simply thinks of him as Marwin instead of Archmaester Marwin. I get the feeling that, at least to Qyburn, there is an intellectual kinship between the two, which there might very well be between a man fascinated with the manipulation of the border between life and death, and the teacher of a woman engaging in blood magic, trading death for life. The third time we hear about Marwin before he actually appears in the flesh is in the chapter The Kraken's Daughter in Feast. Rordrik calls him simply Marwin once too, but supposedly more in the fashion of an avid reader, living as much in his books as he does in the real world, feeling close to the authors he reads. Marwin claims to have found 3 pages of signs and portents, visions written down by the maiden daughter of Aemon Targaryen before the Doom came to Valyria. Later he adds, "I wish to return to Archmaester Marwin and his search." This one calls for closer examination. Who is Rordrik talking about here? Who is Aemon Targaryen and who is his daughter? For those of you who might not already know, the importance of the two for the history of Westeros and Planetos as a whole can hardly be overstated. The two are between them responsible for the Dragon Lords not being completely wiped from the face of Planetos during the Doom of Valyria. Daenerys had seen the Doom in a prophetic dream, and her father Aenor decided to trust her prophecy and moved his family and their belongings to Dragonstone, making subsequent Targaryen rule over Westeros possible. Marwin is into prophecy, and not only prophecy in general it seems, but into Targaryen-related prophecy. While this seems like a thrilling read to Rordrik, I would assume Marwin's interest in the topic is not purely academic. When we finally see Marwin in person then, we find out about a couple more connections. He says about Aemon, "He could not be trusted, no more than I can." So now that makes it 3 outsiders among the Maesters of the Citadel, Marwin, Qyburn and Aemon. What an odd trio. I am not implying here that the 3 formed some kind of faction or anything, mind you. Longtime viewers or readers of my material will know my position on the powers that be within the Citadel, but here we have an exceptional opportunity to demonstrate my reasoning. Marwin tells Sam that the Grey Sheep, the other maesters that is, would probably have killed Aemon had he survived the trip. Marwin adds, "Who do you think killed all the dragons the last time around? Gallant dragon slayers armed with swords? The world the Citadel is building has no place in it for sorcery or prophecy, glass candles, much less dragons." He makes it as clear as humanly possible that he, as an insider, thinks that the maesters have actively been fighting magic in all of its forms, including dragons. In my opinion, they have been doing so for at least as long as there have been Targaryens in Westeros. We must not forget the role Old Town played in Aegon's conquest, but that might be a topic for another day. For now it is only important that we have every reason to believe, Marwin, that the Grey Sheep are fighting the re-emergence of dragons and magic in the here and now. This is also where Pate comes in. Or should I say no one. The Pate Sam talks to, after Marwin leaves, is, of course, only a faceless man wearing Pate's face. The big question here is why that faceless man is in Old Town. In my opinion, they are on faceless man business, and not on a commissioned job. Why would they kill the real Pate, as seen in the prologue, and then hang around Old Town instead of leaving for Braavos again? I think we can see that the faceless men have their own agenda here, but it is nearly impossible to say what that agenda might be. That has something to do with Marwin, but also with Braavos, the second half of today's topic. Let's talk about Braavos for a bit. Braavos is special. She is special among the free cities, and she is special among the daughters of Valyria. People call her the bastard daughter of Valyria for a reason. More than any other free city, Braavos is heavily involved in Westerosi and Targaryen business. Braavosi interest in those matters stems, I would argue, from Braavosi interest in two things. 1. A world without slavery, and 2. A world without dragons. The reason for this is, of course, Braavos' history. Braavos was founded by slaves who managed to flee Valyria before the Doom. Braavos was secret for centuries, hiding from the grasp of the Dragon Lords and their dragons. Braavos' history therefore puts her in a strange situation. On the one hand, Daenerys must seem heaven-sent in terms of slavery, fighting it with an impetus probably never seen before. On the other hand, though, she is descended from the Dragon Lords of Valyria and could bring dragons back into the world for good. A potentially terrifying prospect, no matter what we think of Dany's character. Furthermore, Braavos is not a monolithic entity, as few things are in A Song of Ice and Fire. If anything, Braavos is more politically complex than the other great cities outside of Westeros, at least for all we know. At the very least, there's the Sea Lord, the Iron Bank, and the House of Black and White, all following their own agendas. Then there are other players, the Moon Singers probably being the most mysterious and potentially important among them. I don't think it is possible at this point in the story to have a clear idea of who wants what in Braavos. That doesn't mean we know nothing, of course. We do get a hint when Barristan saves Dany from an assassin in A Storm of Swords. While I have to admit that I did not know enough about the Free Cities or the Yunkai plot to really care on my first read, the assassin is not a random thug, far from it. It is Mero, the Titan's bastard, the former commander of the Second Sons, a high-profile Braavosi who takes pride in his provenance, the bastard son of the bastard daughter of Valyria. I think there is a rather high probability that Mero's assassination attempt is not merely a reaction to a slight, but an action informed by Braavosi mentality and ideas. One might even get the idea that there could be a different reason why Mero's company is in Slaver's Bay, other than their bad reputation. Did Mero take the Second Sons to Slaver's Bay in order to make an attempt on Dany's life in the first place? In the end though, Braavos is still too complex, and we have not seen enough of its main players to assess what's going on in terms of the bigger picture. It's all speculation. That's what makes it so tough for me to make up my mind about what the Faceless Man is doing at the Citadel. While I do feel confident in ruling out that they are on a paid mission, they might be after a conservative Archmaester, after Marwin himself, or even after Sam. There are simply too many moving parts, and Marwin is one himself. You guys know me though. I am partial to a bit of speculation every once in a while. So let's delve a little deeper and put our conspiracy theorists' glasses on. there's one thing we know about the Sea Lord's allegiances. The Sea Lord, very likely Farrago Antarion, the current Sea Lord, since he seems old and sick now, was the witness of the secret pact between House Martell and Willem Darry, representing Dany and Viserys. Surely somebody interested in ending the line of the Dragon Lords would not fulfill such a role, but rather have the Targaryen children killed instead. If the Sea Lord supports Dany, the big question is what the House of Black and White and the Iron Bank think of it. If you put a gun to my head, I'd say the House of Black and White is probably against Dany. If they were not, they would probably officially be in on the secret pact, and we would see some kind of coordination between their agent, Marwin, and Alaris, aka Sorella. What about the Iron Bank then? The Iron Bank supports Stannis for now. That either means that they are genuinely interested in Stannis succeeding, they play him, or they don't care for anything but business. I'll go with the third option. So if our conspiracy theorists' glasses don't lie, what does that mean for Marwin? It means that he's in danger, although he might not be a direct target for now. If I were the head of the House of Black and White, if such a thing even exists, I would keep my powder dry until I am in a position for a decisive blow. The objective has to be to kill Dany and her dragons, I think, preferably after she has done all she is going to do towards ending slavery and keeping slavery in the past. That would be the moment when she finally chooses to leave for Westeros. Well, after she has dealt with whatever is going to go down with Khal Jacko, of course. Regardless if Fake Pate is specifically after Marwin then, the faceless men will be trying to get close to Dany. What else would that mean in respect to Marwin? Well, since the faceless men are neither specifically after him nor on his side, much is still up in the air really. We have little reason to doubt that he actually wants to take Aemon's place at Dany's side. If this is truly a world on the verge of an apocalypse though, who is to say he will ultimately find himself supporting Dany when Dany doesn't even know what's coming, and Marwin does not know anywhere near well enough what Dany's role will have to be in it. This leads us back to Marwin's quest for knowledge, whose written account Rordrik the Reader has been having a hard time putting down. We must not forget that Marwin is still searching for answers. His quest for the truth has never really ended. This makes him very dangerous for Dany's enemies, but also potentially for Dany herself. For now, Marwin seems to want Dany and magic and dragons to flourish. What if it should turn out that the powers of ice and the powers of fire will have to destroy each other to get rid of the others? What if the ultimate choice is between a world with dragons and magic and the threat of the others on one side, and a world without all of that on the other? What, in other words, if it's either a world in a protracted apocalyptic struggle, or the boring materialist world the other maesters are trying to build? What if the maesters have the right goal in mind, but just don't understand that trying to destroy or bottle up only the powers of fire won't do the trick? Marwin is a bit like us, the readers, I suppose. Like us, he is trying to find out what Dany's role will have to be in all of this. He does not know if she will turn out to be good or bad in terms of the endgame, or what she will have to sacrifice to fulfill her role. So, that's all I've got for this one. Not a complete fixed theory, I fear. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and visit our blog. And if you really want to help this channel out, do spread the word.